Okay, welcome back to Industry RSVP In Depth. This is part 3 of our interview with Todd TQ Jefferson. I'm Seth Coltan. I wish I could change that sometimes. I wish I could be Todd Jefferson. And we're learning why. The man has got a fantastic job, and he's doing a fantastic job of sitting with us over the course of these last few weeks to explain to us more about the industry that he works in, which is gaming. Now, it has more to do with just than gaming, because you're ultimately planted in the entertainment industry. And I know that this is just a quarter of your job, but you make video games that come out with movies that come from Marvel, like the Iron Man, Spider-Mans. And how strict do you have to stay to the storyline of the movie when you're creating the video game?
Well, that's actually a great question, and the simple answer is that we don't. It's our mantra to all of our licensees that movie-based video games shouldn't be about the movie. Not at all. The story of the film works best in film. It doesn't translate well to games. In fact, it's a bit of a cage in terms of design and story and what worlds you're going to create. So what we always encourage our teams to do is to work with a Marvel writer, because that brings a level of authenticity to the property and knowledge, deep knowledge of the property that just a standard writer may not have. And then create the best Spider-Man story, the best Thor story, the best Captain America story for a game that you can make. Because it's very, very different. The way it's paced, the way the worlds are laid out, what worlds you can create. In some ways, we're freer than film because we can build any world we want.
So take us from when a project begins. Let's say you knew Thor was being created as a movie. At what point in the process of writing the movie or producing the movie do you guys get involved to sit down to talk about how the video game is going to work?
We try to get the video game publisher and dev teams talking with the filmmakers as early as possible. It takes about 2 years to make a video game, or more, depending on its scope. And the more that they can know up front about what the rules of that world are, what characters are going to be in it, what the story is. Even if we're not going to follow that story, we need to know where they're going to take that character so that we're not creating something that is so completely alien to that mass market consumer that they're turned off by the game, or they feel disillusioned or bait and switch or something like that. So we get in early and we check in often.
Now, this is something I've been dying to tell you. So I had a small role in the movie Thor. It was awesome.
Did you now?
I totally did. My role is Eager Townie. Now, how hard is it going to be to get Eager Townie either in the Thor video game or his own video game, since now he's owned by Marvel?
Let's see here. Well, getting Eager Townie in a game shouldn't be that hard. Whether it's a Thor game, who knows? It might be a different property. There might be a different town, but Eager Townie is versatile as a character. Lots of potential for that.
He's a lot thinner than I am.
Yeah. Now getting his own game, that's a bit tougher.
It is. There's not really an audience for it yet because the movie hasn't come out. Once the movie comes out, people are going to flock to the Eager Townie game.
Like how would people have gone to see or cared who Boba Fett was before Empire Strikes Back came out? So who knows? Eager Townie could be the next Boba Fett.
That would be cool.
There it is.
Now I heard that you're a big Thor fan.
Huge.
Yeah. Now, are you have had dealings with Kenneth Branagh because you've been working on the video game.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's amazing. He was an amazing director. Have you seen any bits and pieces from the movie yet?
Perhaps.
Oh.
Perhaps.
You know Eager Townie.
I haven't spotted Eager Townie, although I'm now waiting with bated breath for my glimpse of Eager Townie.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know that with Thor and with Spider-Man, there's a slight variation sometimes on the classic costumes of the characters that appear in comics. Now you have to stay very close with that when you're creating the world of video game, right? Because it's not just an Iron Man or a Thor video game; it's a Iron Man or Thor video game that goes with the movie. So even though you can explore deeper, the framework of who that character is, including their voice, has to be similar, correct?
It doesn't have to be, but like I was saying before, what you want is to make sure that the character is recognizable to the mass market consumer. I'm familiar with easily 10, 12, 13 different costumes for Thor, and I could any one of them I wouldn't be surprised to see. But the mass market consumer that only knows Thor from the movie is going to respond to that film costume. They're going to respond to the likeness of Chris Hemsworth. They're going to respond to Chris Hemsworth's voice. Now you can always offer up additional things in the way of unlockable costumes and so forth, which is standard fare for video games. It allows you to go deeper into that lore and show more of the character. But for that initial offering, what we try to encourage our licensees to do is create a look that is of the film's world, but a story that is rooted someplace else. It's more of the comic book come to life.
Now, when you say licensee, you mostly refer to the company that is actually physically making the game?
Correct. So the licensee would be an Activision or a Sega or a THQ. So the big game publishers that are out there, and then the development teams that they have hired or contracted to make the game for.
Now, do you and your department have anything to do with the casting of the games, or is that up to the licensee?
Casting the voiceover?
Yeah.
We do participate in that process, in particular when sound-alikes are being cast, which happens very often for any number of reasons. Most often that the talent's just not available in the timeline that the team needs to drop audio into the game. So what they do is they'll go out and they'll do a search for through different actors, and then send us what they call their selects. Here's the cream of the crop of people that we think sounds like Robert Downey Jr. We'll say, and we'll review that, and I'll bounce it off the filmmakers to get their way in as well. Does it sound like Robert Downey Jr.? Does it not? If it doesn't, is it a matter of performance, which is something that you can sort of coach them along and get the right performance out of them, or is it just completely off? And then we feed that feedback to the publishers.
Very cool. I've also heard that a lot of the action for video game, I don't know if this applies to what you guys do now, but a lot of times not only do actors do voiceover, but they come in to be captured for their movement and for the way their face moves when they're speaking. Do you guys use actors for that as well?
The teams that I've worked with, I think they've used that in the past. I don't have a great deal of visibility into motion capture. Like many teams use motion capture, but often in my experience, they don't use the actual talent. Just because it's a very lengthy process.
Right.
It's very time consuming. It's very physically grueling, and it tends to not to say actors aren't physical about their roles, but it's mainly a matter of scheduling. They don't have time to come down and do motion capture in particular.
Got it. We're going to take a break again. I know I had promised you we would talk about Comic-Con. I didn't do it. We'll talk about that next week because I think that's fascinating. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all.
Cool. Thanks. We'll see you guys next week.